here we are once again. It's your good buddy Spider with another fun topic to talk about on... What day is it today? It's Monday. Of course it's Monday. It's always on Monday. So here I am on Monday with your next episode of this podcast. And what random bit of facts and knowledge are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to be talking about birds, but not just any birds. We're going to be talking about peacocks. Something that I actually know something about. So let's talk about this. So yeah, peacocks. Peacocks might be a weird topic, but there's a reason. There's a reason I picked it. And there's a dog barking outside. My window is open because it's warm inside. So you guys are gonna hear outdoor sounds and things because that's just how it is. A peacock. A peacock is a bird, of course, for those people who do not know. And they're apparently from Asia. And you see them around, like not around here, like they're not wild, like out in my yard all the time. But you see them in the United States in different places. People import them all the time. They're not necessarily like an invasive species. They don't just breed uncontrollably. But I'm sure there are some wild peacocks out there. Now there's the peacocks, of course, which are the big ones, the males, with the big fan tail. Looks like it's got a bunch of eyes on it, right? And then you have the peahens, which are the females, and they don't really have those big tails. And they're brown, they're not usually green. They have a little bit of blue. But, yeah, mostly when we talk about peacocks, we talk about them together as one thing. If you want to be official, the term is peafowl. Peafowl. Which sounds like a childish joke to me. Peafowl, fowl, pea, ha ha ha. But, you know, that's if I was still 6 years old in public school. So I'm just going to say peacocks, just for simplicity, and because it's less of an opportunity for me to make a terrible joke like that again, right? Okay. So yeah, plumage is the big thing about peacocks. They got those big fantails, and they got lots of colors on them. I'm going to pull up a picture here to make sure I've got them all right. You got like yellow and brown and gold and blues of different shades. Sometimes you'll get purple. And they use that, the male peacocks use that to attract the female peacocks. So that they can have mates and they can have more peacocks and eggs and all that kind of stuff, right? And I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to hear this, but I pulled up the article on my phone, and it has a sound clip of a peacock. And I have some thoughts about this, which I'm going to get to in a minute or two. But first, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play the sound. So maybe you'll be able to hear it over the sound of the dog outside. It's going to be loud, so watch your volume if you're at home. All right? Here we go. This is a peacock. I'll tell you, it's really annoying to hear that at 6 a.m. in the middle of the country when everyone else in your neighborhood is asleep in the middle of a farm country, and it's right outside your window somewhere. And I know that for a fact because when I was a kid, I was less of a kid. I was mid to upper teens by the time we got these. Because I was semi-responsible. I say that despite the fact that around this time I would also skip school by just sleeping in and not getting up for the bus. But, semi-responsible. And, so, we had these peacocks. My dad gets into things all the time. He got into Asian cooking for a little while, making egg rolls and spring rolls. And he was on that for a long time. He's got VR headsets, all kinds of things. We could do like a whole week's worth, like 6 weeks worth of episodes just on stuff that my dad is into. But he wanted peacocks to walk around outside on the property for some reason. And they live in like farm country where there's like big yards, big acreage and everything. So they got a lot of room to roam. So of course, okay, fine. We'll get these big birds to just wander out on the property. So we had peacocks. We had at least 3, maybe 4. I'm kind of loose on the number. If any of my family is listening, if any of my sisters and things are listening, which I don't know, I doubt, but if they are, they'll be sure to correct me, I'm sure, because they have a better memory for that than I do. And so we would have peacocks wandering around the property all hours of the day. But they were troublesome because, as the Wikipedia here says, they are forest birds that nest on the ground but roost in trees. And roost they did. They would roost in some of the biggest trees we had on the property. They would roost in the biggest trees my uncle had on his property across the road. They would roost on the tallest structures they could find, which at the time was our house. So I would have to take, and it's a 3-story house with an attic. So you've got 4 floors. Not a small house. And I don't mind. I'm not saying that as like a humble brag or anything. I'm just saying it was a big house. And they would go to the top, the very top. And so sometimes, as I said, I'd wake up 6 in the morning. I'd hear that peacock sound. And I'm going to play it for you again just because it's annoying and because you need to hear the pain that I had to go through. So here we go. Here's the peacocks again. I would hear that, like right outside the window above from the roof. Okay? And if I was the only person home, which frequently if I was skipping school, as I did sometimes, note to children, don't skip school. And but I would be the most able-bodied person in the house at the time. Everybody else would be at work or whatever, and so I'd have to get out this massive ladder, get him down from the top of the house, make him go roam around the yard and do what they do and forage and stuff. Peacocks forage. They forage for insects and things like that. But they can also eat, I learned today, and so I kind of remember that they used to do this, but I hadn't thought about it in a while, that they do eat, like, kibble, like cat food and things like that. If you have cats outside and you have the cat food out there, peacocks will find it, because they like protein. They like protein-heavy foods. So, yeah, they'd wander around, and sometimes the actual peacock, he would get a little aggressive because he's got his ladies with him, right? He'd walk around in this little flock with his ladies, and if you're trying to get him to not go in the road or not go up a tree, he wouldn't like it, so he'd charge at you. And they got these claws. The wiki article supports me on it too. I'm not being crazy. They have let me see. They're called metatarsal spurs or thorns on their legs, used during intraspecific territorial fights with some other members of their kind. In this case, they were used in fights against me. Most of the time. Because I'd try to, like, guide them to where they would, be safer or, not causing trouble. And he didn't like it, so he'd leap into the air and, like, swing these claws at me. And I had a trick, and it's going to sound like I'm being cruel to animals, and I'm not, and I'm going to explain why, because it's not that bad. I would have this stick, okay, and you're already thinking, oh, don't tell me you beat a peacock with a stick. And no, I didn't beat a peacock with a stick, okay? Let me tell you the story. He would jump at me, I have this stick, not real heavy, not this big pointy stick, and I would just give him a quick tap on the chest, right? Because as a bird, they have real light bones, right? Super light bones, so that they can move around and fly around and stuff. So they have this thick, super, super thick chest. Big, thick chest. Lots of muscle. Lots of thickness there. So you're not going to hit them on a bone or hit them on something like that. Like a lot of people, they think about their Christmas and Thanksgiving meals, and they're like, oh, well, I know all about the birds and stuff. And well, there's so much on top of that, So you just give them a tap just to tell them, hey, don't mess with me. And sometimes it would take 2 or 3 taps before he'd be like, all right, fine, I'm done with you. Because he was a tough guy. They were his ladies, and I was trying to mess with his ladies, obviously. So he was upset about that. But no damage, never got hurt. I didn't get hurt, thank you very much. So nobody ever got hurt. They were all right. Now, the other thing about peacocks, which is weird, is apparently in this part of the world, when you bring them over, their natural enemy is raccoons. Don't know why. Raccoons don't like them. Raccoons don't like peacocks. And I don't want to end this episode on like a sad note. I'm just going to tell you that that's, how that situation ended up with raccoons and peacocks. But, because we were out there, we had a lot of raccoons in the forest and stuff out back. So, if you're going to have peacocks or something like that, you have to take slightly more precautions. We took some precautions, but there's only so much you can do. So, hopefully everybody's not crying in the audience now. I would understand if you did. But, still, peacocks. That one was mean. He was angry. He was always angry. They didn't like to go in their pen either, because sometimes you have to collect them and you have to put them in their pen for the evening. We had like this wire pen made for them that had a roof and everything, and they didn't want to go in there. But oh well, that's peacocks for you. If you get into raising peacocks, they're a lot of work. You don't think so, because you think you just let them wander around, look pretty, look nice, look how sophisticated I am. I have peacocks, and then they screech at you, and they attack you, and they fly up on top of your house. That's peacocks for you. But yeah, and I don't have a lot more to say on it. It's a short topic tonight, just because that's mostly about that story of peacocks, and I wanted to tell that story. So if you get into it, yeah, that's peacocks. And I don't know where you'd even get them, I don't know where he got them from. He knew somebody who raised peacocks. Possibly. He knew somebody who raised peacocks. That's where he always gets in on these schemes and things. He knows somebody, and then he gets in on the whole thing and gets the scoop on it. So if you're looking to raise your own peacocks, or just to have them trounce around your property, good luck to you. But I don't know where you'd go. I'm sure you could check out the internet, because the internet is much farther along now than it was at the time. Plus, we had dial-up at the time, so, I don't know. But they can be, nice to look at. They'll wander around, and they'll, they don't cause a lot of mass destruction. Like, they don't, around here we have geese, and, a lot of people in this area, they get Canadian geese going back and forth, migrating and stuff. And if you're in an area with a lot of geese, you get goose poop, right? And that can get everywhere, and that can cause some problems because there's just a lot of it. The peacocks, they don't seem to have that problem so much. I mean, they use the bathroom and stuff like that. Peacock's not going to go into your house and use your bathroom. That's not what I mean. People take me literally sometimes. But they do what they got to do out in the grass and things, but there's usually only a few of them, and they don't, it's not excessively messy or gross or anything like that compared to some other creatures. So it's not that bad. So they're relatively, if you know what you're doing, they're relatively easy to take care of, and they can be easy to keep happy as long as you have enough food and you have the space for them to get to, and you don't have too many close neighbors for them to be irritated with. Okay? Because that was the thing. I had to constantly be getting mad at my neighbor's trees. Who was my uncle at the time, too. Not, he's still my uncle. He wasn't like my uncle at the time, and now he's not. He's still my uncle. Just saying. So that's it. It's a short one, like I said. It's half as long as some of my other episodes, because there's not much more to say. It was mostly just so I could tell that story about peacocks. Peacocks. And, I guess I'll repeat. We went to Hawaii some years ago. And there was a zoo down there. We went down there to the zoo and, nature preserve and things. And there were peacocks wandering around in the grounds because they're like, oh yeah, they look nice. They don't go out of their way usually to bother you. Look, I'd say that this male was aggressive, but that's because I had to mess with him. I had to say, you can't go over here, you can't do this, you can't do that. So he saw that as aggression, right? They're usually not aggressive unless you mess with them. And we were witness to what could have been a disaster when a small child who was not being, paid attention to as well as he should have been by his parents, he was going over and trying to chase the peacocks and pull on their feathers, and they chased him a little. They chased him a little. Not very far, but they did chase him a little bit, and that was kind of amusing. Be careful, because they do have those claws. I mean, you let your kids go after a peacock, and your peacock, jams a claw into your kid, then, you're asking for trouble. Just saying, be careful. But there are places you can go like that, like zoos and whatnot, where they'll just be wandering around and whatnot, and they're mostly safe. They're not going to be, overly aggressive if you leave them alone. Don't go up and bother them. It's like any other animal. Don't go bothering them if they don't want to be bothered. Right? That's peacocks. And that's all. It's like I said, it's just a short one. Just a little 15-minute episode. The next one might be longer. Who knows? I don't know. I always kind of come up with these at the last minute and then see what sticks. But my last episode was about Ohio, the great, semi-great state of Ohio that I live in. So if you want to know all about that, you can do that. And in the meantime, you got Twitch Tuesday tomorrow in the evening. And nothing on Wednesday. Uncanny Spirits Club on Thursday. This Uncanny Earth on Friday. And another episode of the Saturday Spiritualist on Saturday. Full schedule every week. Uncanny Media Network. Working hard for you. Something like that. I don't know. I come up with all these phrases myself. I don't read a script. So that's all. If you get a peacock, tell me about it. I would love to hear your stories about your peacocks, if you have them. You can tell me about them as a comment on this video, or you can send it to me on as a comment on my Spider Does Things page on Facebook. Okay? Alright. Be careful with your peacocks. Alright? Have a big, tall ladder. It's important.